The best antidote to the disease of egoic limitations is to simply stop listening to other people tell you what you are, and instead look inside yourself and look within. Ask the big questions. Ask, who are you? Ask, why are you doing these things? What are you meant to be doing with your life? It's time for these simple and yet big questions. And a lot of people that are on the spiritual path, they tend to develop this perception, and it's this PIM, as I call it, a portrayal in mind, as I talk about in my book. It's a portrayal in mind in which they perceive that other people are more authoritative or know more or have experienced more, and therefore they are less than. Well, it's not that you're less than, it's just simply that these people perhaps do have spiritual authority, but that doesn't mean that you're less than. It just means that you're not as developed as you will be, and that maturation is a process that takes time. And when it comes to listening to people on the internet, believe me, as somebody who's been doing YouTube for over 3 years now, the amount of criticizing of people on the internet is insane. I mean, I definitely get more support and love on this channel than I do get hate and critiques. But when I do get the hate and critiques, all that I can think to myself is, man, I need better enemies. Because they just are hyperbolic in their ad hominems, and they don't know how to do anything other than mock. And this is something that I've seen countless times, and even last night I was aiming to reach out toward a atheist on X, which was very upset with me for standing in Christ. And I legitimately tried to ask this person, like, well, what is your perspective then? Where exactly do you see the flaws in the premises of the argument that I'm making, or the presuppositions, or in the conclusion itself? And they just ascertained that this conclusion was wrong. You know, they didn't really have any arguments other than that, and they were just so emotional. And it reminded me a lot of how religious spirits operate as well. Religious spirits, for those that know the Bible, the Pharisees, you can think about the religious spirits as the spirit of the Pharisee. And any religion, hitherto is going to be associated with these religious spirits more often than not. And a lot of people believe that following Christ and being religious are the same thing. Now, personally, I don't see it that way. And I know many other people, for example, in the Regal Change Academy group that we have, that are not in that religious category either. They don't really go to church, too many of them. And if they do, the religion that they are associated with is not even Regal Change Academy, because Regal Change Academy is a university and church replacement option. It's not aiming to replace churches, it's not aiming to replace the universities, but it's going to give people the opportunity to actually learn these things. And what I've seen in so many people, especially online, is that they desire to change. They desire to live the truth. They desire to live out all these beautiful things of life. And yet they don't really want to. They want to. They just desire the wanting. And they desire the feeling. But they don't actually imagine what it would be like and feel like to actually live out that vision. Setting up the criteria of success, is a real skill. And this is another PIM that you have to associate yourself with and reorient yourself with. Like I talk about in my book, the origin of your PIM is going to be contingent upon the cognitive faculties of your own mind, as well as the proclivity that you have toward openness or industriousness or any of the other big five personality type traits. And the more disagreeable you are, it's usually not a terrible thing, but you have to be capable of agreement. One thing that I notice with a lot of these atheists and hyper religious spirits is that they're very disagreeable and they're low in compassion, but they're really high in industriousness and they're not so high in openness. And they're kind of low in neuroticism for the most part. But it's almost like they have to reorient themselves once they see the truth for what it is. And when that happens, there's going to be several things that occur. The first thing is that they're going to have to realize that it's not a bad thing to be disagreeable, but in order to know the truth, you're going to have compassion with yourself. And a lot of people are so hyper independent or hyper dependent on the system or other people or other places or things that they're not going to be able to disassociate themselves from the PIM that they have, the portrayal in mind, and the actual duty of life in of itself, that is to live as an image of Christ. Because when you get to the point where you realize that you were created not to think about taxes, not to think about bills, or not to think about like how you're going to go to the university and get this degree and to get that degree and to get this job and to get that job. You're going to be in the system because that's the right thing to do. You're going to get that social status. You're going to get that power. And don't get me wrong, those things are all fine and dandy. And in fact, I would say that to be educated is very good. To be properly sophisticated and yet capable of being a godlike savage is completely normal, I would say, as a man. And I think, in fact, it would be a hindrance to you not to know how to be social. You have to learn how to be socialized properly. Because if you're not socialized, it's really going to affect your total growth overall. You have to be likable to people. And have you ever noticed that more often than not, we are becoming and being to other people what we view of ourselves more often than not? And sometimes people are just too insecure to think about these things. But this is where you just have to ignore those kinds of people, man. You just have to ignore. Some of these people are just not capable of being reached. And that's unfortunate because, of course, we want to see everybody come to Christ. But forcing people is not the way. Telling people that they're going to go to hell or else is not the way, I don't think. Even though it's the truth, I don't think it's the way. And the reason being is because you're just putting fear into people. You're not really establishing the basics first. You're not reaching them where they are. And you're just going to hurt their ability to relate to Jesus in the long run if that's the case. And I absolutely fear Jesus Christ above all else. And I choose peace and love above all other options above all else, except for the fear of Christ, because I fear God. I don't fear God because I fear of his tyrannical thing. Like, he's not a tyrant. He's a loving authoritarian. And I think that that's, as men, what we ought to be within our own lives. We ought to be loving authoritarians over our lives. And it's not to say that we can't listen to people or take heed to their counsel or find that there's something useful in these others that are worth listening to, because everybody's going to be able to teach you something. That's something that I just live by, because you're always meant to be with the people that you're meant to be with to some degree. I mean, I'm sure you've had jobs in the past where you ask yourself, how in the world am I, how in the world am I on the same, scale as this person? Like, I know I'm better than this. I know I'm better than this. Why in the world did our paths have to be this way? And I've seen that many times. And remember that sometimes it's simply a reminder that we are to see these people and let them be the reminder of what will happen if we do not commit ourselves to Christ. Because sometimes you just have to ignore the noise and become more of a signal. This is something I've been aiming to do with my business as a whole. This is something that I've been aiming to do with my life as a whole. This is something that I've seen with Bitcoin, for example, rather than the fiat currency system that we live in, which is, for anybody that doesn't know, a fiat system is any system of currency / money that is dependent upon nothing and is not, rather not dependent, rather not backed by gold or anything of the sort. And I think that Bitcoin is going to be the standard in the future. I don't know how soon that future is going to be here, but it's not even that I want to think this way. It's just that I'm seeing the logical reasoning play itself out. And I think a lot of these people that are into Bitcoin don't actually even know what Bitcoin is. They just want to be in the hype train pretty much. Like, I don't think they actually see what it actually is. Because if you actually see what it actually is, it literally changes your life. And something that I've heard so many people that are critiquing Bitcoin, for example, it's just they haven't done more than 10 minutes research on it, or they want to just blame the government. And it's like, well, you do know that it's like math, right? This is a mathematical discovery, right? Like, you know that this is a mathematical discovery. And this is where, again, you just have to ignore the noise and look at what's actually there. Okay, whether it's really anything in life. I mean, I'm sure you guys have all been, well, maybe not everybody, but most people that watch my channel have been around narcissists in the past. And I'm sure you've met people that are narcissistic. Maybe they weren't narcissists, but they were highly narcissistic on the scale. Or BPD or histrionic, even though histrionic is a very rare thing. And I've only seen pretty much one that I can totally, like, I'm not, I'm no diagnosis practitioner, but I am pretty positive this person was histrionic and is histrionic. And because everything she did was, and women are primarily histrionic when it comes to their personality disorder, but it was just like everything she did was just hypersexual. Everything she did was, I don't even know if she meant it to be. That's just the way that she was. And she couldn't help herself. Like, she literally could not help herself being super flamboyant and sexual. I mean, just the kind of language that she would use. It was just, absolutely bizarre. And again, this is where you have to recognize, okay, do I just take note of this? Or do I just let that go? Because this is also where, I'm sure you guys have heard the saying where not all dogs that bark need to be addressed. Something along those lines. I'm paraphrasing perhaps, but that's pretty much what it is. I mean, you don't need to address all of these people that are trying to critique you for no reason, especially if they're anonymous online. I don't pay any attention to anonymous comments anymore. I just don't. And the reason for that is because it's just, if you're not going to even show your face and you're going to tell me all the things that are wrong about me online, I can't take you seriously. I just can't. And then most of the people that do critique me that have their face online, they usually have got green hair or red hair and multiple piercings. They look like vampires, or they look like McDonald's vampires. I mean, it's just, again, I can't take these people seriously because I would never, ever, ever, ever want to trade lives with these people. And I don't mean to be rude or insulting. I'm just speaking a fact here. And this is another thing and another reason why you just have to ignore some people sometimes. What do they have that you would want. If they're critiquing you or ostracizing you or trying to tell you what's what and how's what and how's how and why's why, if you see that they don't have anything, whether it's peace of mind or relationship to God or actual putting into practice what they're preaching, why listen to them? Why listen to a word of what they have to say? And this is something that I've seen time and time again. And I'm really, really pleased with the people that I actually have worked with, where, yeah, maybe they were once depleted coomers or beta males or whatnot, but now we made them into that godlike savage. We made them into those godlike mindset people where they can actually make a difference in the world. They're willing to do the work. They're willing to listen. They're willing to be wrong. That's another thing. So many of these atheists and religious spirits and all these things, they don't ever want to be willing to be wrong. They only need to be right. They have to be right. And it's like, yeah, yeah. It's like my nervous system is literally repulsed by them. Have you ever been around people? I just thought about this, where you're around them and you literally feel like your energy and their energy is just not a match at all, and you feel as if you're losing your complete judgment around these people. Like, and it's not like judgment, it's just your discernment. Really, you're losing your discernment around these people. You're like, what in the I do not need to be around this. You guys can do what you want way the over there. Just go over there. I'm gonna get on the train of gold here and Bitcoin and Jesus Christ, and you guys can go do whatever the you're doing over there, because I don't want to be a part of it. Just being around that kind of energy literally lowers your mood. And you know what I've noticed is, the more I'm in solitude, gosh, I'm so at peace, man. I was like ignoring the world and just listening to the Beatles while I make dinner is one of the best decisions I've ever made. Like, and I've been doing this for years, but last night specifically, I haven't really danced for like a week or two. And it was a long day. It was a very good day. Like, I was very productive, go get it kind of mode all day long. And then at about 6-7 o'clock last night, oh my gosh, it just kind of hit me. And I was like, okay, I need to just chill for a couple hours, and I'm going to listen to some music. I'm going to make some pasta. I made some chicken pesto pasta, and man, it was good. Man, it was so good. And I just chilled, and I was able to dance while I'm cooking. I'm listening to these old Beatles albums that I haven't listened to for a while. And I don't know if you guys have heard the song Mr. Moonlight by the Beatles, and a lot of people don't like the Beatles, I get it, but a lot of people like them, so it is what it is. But man, I was just like, Mr. Moonlight, Mr. Moonlight, come again, please. Anyway, it was fun. It was chill. I like being by myself. I can just chill. I can relax. I don't need to listen to these people that are just, their energy is so bleh. And they're so, honestly, it's just kind of gay. Like, they're just gay and retarded in the worst kind of way. They're not listening to their inner retard, and they're just being freaking like geeks and nerds online, and trying to tell people how to live their life when they're miserable. I don't get it. But to each their own, I suppose. That's why we just have to do what we do and ignore the rest. Be a signal and form a network. Okay, that's what we're aiming to do. And I couldn't be more pleased with the way things are going right now in the Regal Change Academy, because we have the free option now available. So everybody that wants to be in there, that really wants to be, they will be in there. But if they want to join the group calls and the classes, that's where they'll have to have that payment wall, really. We call it a paywall in the business world, but that paywall is there because I want to make sure that the people that actually want to, invest in themselves, they get the best of the best. And so you'll have access to the community for free, of course, but also you're going to be filtered out if you're not actually engaging in the free community. If you're a lurker, bye-bye. Okay, if you're not actually committed to engagement, that's fine, but you'll be removed. We want people that are serious here, and even if you're in there for free, you've got to set a standard for yourself and be respectful to others. All right. So I hope that with all that being said, everybody has been having a good day, a bright, sunshiny day, even though it's kind of cloudy and sunny at the same time here. Partly cloudy, I guess. But I hope everybody stays blessed. Sign up for the Godlike Master Initiation program that I have if you're interested, as well as the one-on-one mentorship calls as well. Again, everybody, just ignore them. You can just ignore them. Just be chill. It's okay. Stay blessed. Peace.